After independent conservative journalist Nick Shirley documented massive fraud in Minnesota, things have gone rather crazy. Now it looks like media outlets such as CNN, msnow, and beyond are actively rooting for President Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act, of course, to bolster their ratings. And if that's not completely nuts enough for you, former CNN personality Don Lemon just might be headed for jail after storming a church service in St. Paul with protesters.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable. You may not like it, but I mean, if they went into a church.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the channel that delivers you sanity every day. We got plenty of it. We're happy to give it to you. And most of this country, most of this beautiful US of A, is filled with lots of nice people and a lot of sanity, but not in Minnesota. Definitely not right now. Folks, I got to show you this. We're not political. We're not going to be political. Click the like button. Drop a comment down below. But you got to have the table set to understand what's going on with the media, and I think they're actively engaged in attempting to bring out the Insurrection Act. I think they know it's good for them. I think they know it's good for them in the midterms. Listen, it may happen. It may have to happen, but they're after it. The Washington Post explains it like this. Pentagon readies 1,500 soldiers to possibly deploy to Minnesota, officials say. Minneapolis's mayor said Sunday that the administration is trying to bait protesters into creating a pretext for an active duty deployment. Now, this is the story of one movie and two different ways to perceive it. Of course, if you've been watching this and you are on the right side or the centrist side, you have one viewpoint. If you're on the left, or perhaps even as far as calling yourself woke, you definitely see all of this a different way. The article says the Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment in Minnesota. Defense officials told the Washington Post late Saturday after President Donald Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to unrest there. Now, I won't go any further into this, just to say this is on the table. It may happen, and I think it's more likely than it was a couple of days ago. And here's why. This is Don Lemon, you all know him. He's a former CNN guy. And I believe that after Nick Shirley was so successful just going to, I don't know what warehouses these are that supposedly hold daycare centers and all kinds of other things, but Nick Shirley would go there and he would say, hey, any kids here? And they'd say, get out of here, you bum, and chase him off and call the police and all that kind of stuff. But didn't seem to be any kids. Lots of money, though. Millions and millions, billions of dollars. Well, Don Lemon and a bunch of the other access media, legacy media types, they would like to have the kinds of views that Nick Shirley has. And so they're doing what they think he does, but not in the same way, I would say. Don Lemon interrupting a church service, and by that I mean ransacking it, hijacking it, getting in there and mucking it up, messing up the place, bullying it, mob tactics, I believe, from Don Lemon. Here's what happened in Minneapolis.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And
if you don't know what this is, Don Lemon and a bunch of protesters invaded a church service, took it over, began chanting, all because they believe that the pastor is not anti-ICE. And that gives them the right to bust into a church service. Now, can you imagine how the left would respond if Nick Shirley had been busting into places, right? But they think it's fair ground to do that to a church because they want the views. These are absolute egotistical narcissists to the highest degree, and they need the ratings, folks. They need the ratings. Colin Rugg has this. Don Lemon tries lecturing a pastor on the First Amendment after a mob of far lefties stormed a church in Minneapolis. Here's what the pastor said to Don Lemon, who, again, is chasing those Nick Shirley numbers that he just can't get. I guess getting kicked off of X, has left him in a sore place.
what do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here.
Listen to Don Lemon is just the worst, okay? Telling a pastor not to push him. He's rushed into the church service. He's brought, and this is a media, folks, this is a media effort. They've got the cameras. This is all about, they're trying to create an event. And I believe they are daring the Trump administration to invoke the Insurrection Act. They want violence. They want chaos. They want it. It's what they desire more than anything. They love it. They live in it. And they won't have to suffer from it because they'll go stay in their little penthouses and their lovely 5-star hotels far away from the action. They're only here to instigate the action. And when the chaos breaks out, they'll get to cover it, get their ratings. They're insidious, evil people. Again, watch as he says, "Don't push me," to the pastor, who they've just pushed into their, into this service in order to make a media spectacle out of it. Watch this.
Because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yes. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
In other words, get out of here. We're going to trespass you, and I wish they would. All right, so Don Lemon wants the Nick Shirley numbers. Harmeet Dillon is out here. She's the Assistant Attorney General. Says, "I'm in touch with Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI. We are all over it. We are investigating potential criminal violations of federal law." And talking to Todd Starnes. Todd Starnes says this: ex-CNN host Don Lemon and a mob of anti-ICE thugs stormed a church during a worship service this morning in Minneapolis. The godless thugs shut down the worship service at City's church. This is why every congregation should have armed security, full-blown anarchy. Civil rights of Christians are being violated in Minnesota. Any comment from the White House? Okay, so we've got a comment from DOJ. Now, whatever you might think about DOJ, I'm going to tell you that Harmeet Dillon, I think, is legit. Okay? So whatever you think about DOJ, and if you're frustrated with DOJ, I hear you. I understand you. I share many of your frustrations, but I think Harmeet Dillon is on this. Here's Don Lemon after the incident. Don Lemon after the incident. Here it is. We'll see what he says. Again, it's just despicable. I mean, it really is. This is the media attempting to create a situation where somebody will get, or somebodies will get deleted, and then they can cover it.
You heard what some of the folks said in there, that this is, they shouldn't be there, and, they shouldn't be uncomfortable, and this is our house and whatever. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable. You may not like it, but, I mean, if they went into a church, any...
Would he ever do that in some of the other religious faiths and their places of worship? Just asking. Thomas Hearn. Let's talk about CNN, because Don Lemon comes from CNN, and I want you to see it's not just people like him. It's not just the frauds and the washed up lackeys out there trying to find some way to instigate chaos. It's the cable news too. So let's go to this one. It says, why does CNN keep inviting Tiffany Cross back on the network to lie? This is a real problem, folks. We have a real problem on our hands if the cable news networks are going to be engaged in trying to instigate chaos for ratings. And I believe they are. Here's some from CNN.
On this very network during the 4 p.m. Eastern hour, a reporter was on the ground in Minneapolis, and he was explaining what he has seen with his own eyes, that during the day, yes, peaceful protesters exercising their First Amendment right. But what happens when the sun goes down? A new group of people, younger, come out, and in his words, are agitators.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I believe they're professional agitators. Let's go to this lady who's going to give her answer. And this is what bothers me is, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't listen to your misleading ears is essentially the message that she's going to give. And remember, this one guy here, he and Scott Jennings outnumbered completely by the rest of this. Here's what she has to say. And this is why, by the way, they're going to fight tooth and nail to prevent the Ellisons and CBS from getting a hold of CNN. They do not want it moderated whatsoever.
a complete misrepresentation of what the reporter you were referencing, Shimon, was on ground in Minneapolis. And I saw the stand-up he did in the 4 p.m. Eastern hour. He absolutely did not say what you suggested he did. He was saying what he had been told. He's been on the ground bearing witness.
No, he said, I have seen this.
He didn't. The audience can look at it.
All right, good thing we got it. We'll go to it. Here's what he actually said. So, because she says that's not real. Says that the agitators are not being brought in the evenings, right? Which is when the media, by the way, the primetime ratings, baby. Bring in the professional agitators. We got to get us some primetime ratings. Here's what CNN reported during the daytime.
And they're not protesters. These are the agitators. They were trying to stop the cars from going in. They were kicking the cars. They were attacking the cars. And this went on for a while. And for the most part, federal law enforcement stood back. And they said, okay, let's see if this ends. And it didn't. And then finally, at around 11 Eastern, they had just had it. And that's when we got caught in the middle of the...
Oh, so CNN does say there are agitators being brought in. How about that? If we go to MS Now, how are things going, folks? Well, first of all, I need to tell you that according to Allie Bradley, ICE arrested 13 members of some of the world's most dangerous criminal gangs in Sanctuary, Minnesota. I'm not going to scroll down below because it has their pictures and stuff, and we're not going to do that on this channel. We don't do that. We don't get into that. But here's what Ilhan Omar had to say on MS Now about all of this.
They have not been able to tell us what is the purpose for this search. They haven't been able to produce any evidence that they are finding people who are undocumented, who have committed crimes.
Okay. And you can see the thing down here from MS Now says Americans rally against ICE agenda in the streets. You see that, right? Okay. So why are we covering this today? Why are we back into politics, folks? Because this is a media story. This is the media attempting to create chaos so the media can cover said chaos. I truly, fully believe that. I don't see any other way to convey this, to read this, to interpret this. You have now agitators like Don Lemon, knowing full well what they're doing, going into churches, making people feel unsafe. How long until Don Lemon does that and one of those protesters has, something they should not have inside a church? And how long until there's a confrontation with security? Every church now in Minnesota knows they can be on the list for this. How long until they do that to the wrong person? How long until they're trying to break into ICE situations? And by the way, remember the hotel where the ICE people were staying and they were trying to break into the lobby and all that? They're essentially, the media now is involved. These are not just organic protests. These are not simply even synthetic agitators. They are embedded with the media, with some of the worst, most atrocious people who will do this, create chaos, flee back to their king-size beds and their 5-star hotels and watch it unfold and watch normal, average people be wiped away by all of this. They've done it. They've done it years ago. They know how to do it. And they are banking on the idea that either Trump won't do anything and this will continue on and that bolsters the ratings, or Trump will do something and that will bolster the ratings. But whatever the case may be, they're on the ground and they are there to ensure that chaos happens here. And they're only going to report it in a way that lets the chaos happen there. And while 99% of America is just fully sane, nothing but sanity, in these places, viewership demands they must be on the ground invoking the worst of humanity, lying, misleading, and doing everything they can to hold on to the relevancy. CNN, MS Now, the access media on the other side of Nick Shirley, he simply walked up to places with a camera and said, are there kids here? Is this a legitimate business? Now the other side is engaged in it, but what are they doing instead? Breaking into church services, walking around, kicking vehicles, roughing up people, doing all the horrible things that you know you should not do. And all because they don't want the same thing that they heralded in the Obama administration. And all you got to do is go back to the CNN documentary that we played here on the channel last week. CNN, right along with ICE, praising them, heroes they are, telling you how great they were because it was a different administration. It's all about the ratings. It's not about the real people who live in these places, who will have to live with the fallout. They don't care. They're eating caviar at your expense in their 5-star hotel after they dispense with a bunch of chaos in your neighborhood. And folks, you may not live in Minneapolis. You may not live in Minnesota. You may not live in St. Paul. They'll bring it to where you live if they get the chance. Because all they care about from their gated communities with their security guards is one more view, one more click, one more ad, a little bit more money, a lot of bit of power, and it's every single hour is the time for them to do just that. That's the report for today, folks. We've got more on your way. Hopefully happier topics. This will not succeed. This will not win what they're up to. We are going to shine a light on this. Others will as well. It's an awful thing, folks. It's a pathological behavior that our media has been allowed to do for far too long. I hope the DOJ gets involved with the media companies. Get on it. All right, folks, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And until the next time, we have the honor, the privilege, and the responsibility of spending time together talking about the truth with the capital T. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
So, I see you've stooped to a new low.
A new low? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm on a new high. I'm flying on sunbeam light. You might say I have sparkles and protons in my eyes.
Right. Well, everyone's gonna see straight through this. Packing Protons gives the Pro Channel a ton of money to watch terrible movies, and, well, you want in on it.
Yeah, and your point?
It's obviously a grift. It's blatant. It's cardboard and Sharpie. It's over the top. It's
so me.
Yeah, it's very much you.
And do you know the best part?
No.
I actually love bad movies. They're all I watch. I could sit lifelessly with joy watching these things, and packing will pay me money to do what I already enjoy into the wee little mornings of every day. Ah, sweet birdemic and garbage pail kids back to back. I know one little troll who's not gonna sleep tonight.